September 24th, 2025, Dallas, Texas. The city was waking up. Cars lined the freeway. Office lights flickered on in the distance. A handful of commuters had already parked their cars along North Stemmons Freeway, preparing for another routine workday. But before 7 a.m., that routine shattered. At 6:40 a.m., a volley of gunfire erupted outside a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility. The shooter had chosen his position carefully, an elevated rooftop overlooking the 8100 block of the freeway. He was not there to scare. He was not there to protest. He was there to kill. His target? An unmarked van transporting ICE detainees. Human beings already shackled, already in custody, already powerless. The bullets tore through the steel frame. Inside, detainees screamed. Some were hit instantly. Some ducked and prayed, but for at least two of them there was no escape. Within minutes, their lives were over. Another detainee was left clinging to life, rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The van veered off course, but law enforcement officers on site were not struck. The gunman didn't fire at them. He didn't even fire at the building. He focused his attack exclusively on the detainees. Why? That question will haunt Dallas, Texas, and the entire country for years to come. The gunman was 29-year-old Joshua Jahn, white male, born April 30th, 1996, a man whose name, until that morning, meant nothing to the public. By 7 a.m., his name was a headline. By 8 a.m., he was dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, ending his own life before law enforcement could take him alive. And just like that, the narrative began. Who was he? Why did he do this? What does his story say about the state of America in 2025? Officials quickly pieced together fragments. Voter rolls showed he had participated in the 2020 Democratic primary. His deleted Facebook profile reportedly contained Antifa and communist imagery. Unconfirmed chatter suggested he spent hours gaming on Discord servers. Former coworkers whispered that he had recently lost his job at Walmart. A picture began to form, but the brushstrokes were uneven, the colors conflicting. To some, he was a radical leftist. To others, a depressed young man lashing out in desperation. To law enforcement, he was a dangerous individual who had orchestrated a deliberate attack. But here's the uncomfortable truth. John did not exist in a vacuum. He existed in an America where ICE has been vilified, demonized, and attacked verbally for years. He existed in an America where ICE detention facilities were compared to concentration camps, and protesters nationwide carried banners demanding the agency be abolished altogether. So we must ask, when someone takes those words and translates them into action, who is responsible? Is it just the man with the rifle? Or is it also the society that radicalized him with words, imagery, and a narrative of good and evil? This is not about defending ICE. This is about confronting the rhetoric. Because if we are honest, John did not invent his ideology out of thin air. He absorbed it from political speeches, from viral tweets, from online communities that dehumanized ICE agents and cast detainee transports as symbols of oppression. And while most Americans who shared those ideas would never pick up a gun, one man did. And that's the point. It only takes one. The result? At least 4 people dead, 2 detainees, Joshua Jahn himself, and another detainee who later succumbed to his wounds. Families shattered, communities scarred, and a country once again staring into the mirror, unable to recognize its own reflection. So let's step back. Who was Joshua Jahn before that morning? Neighbors describe him as quiet, withdrawn. He wasn't a man who raised suspicion in daily life. He didn't post threatening rants online that drew early FBI attention. His record doesn't suggest an extremist in the classic sense. He was, by all accounts, ordinary. And maybe that's what makes this story so terrifying. Because if an ordinary young man can walk into a Walmart one week, get fired the next, and within days climb onto a rooftop with a rifle, what does that say about the fragility of our society? How many more Joshuas are out there? How many more young men, disillusioned with politics, frustrated with work, angry at the system, are one bad week away from becoming headlines? Now add this layer, ICE. Since its creation, Immigration and Customs Enforcement has been one of the most divisive agencies in the U.S. government. On the right, it is seen as essential for border security and national protection. On the left, it is seen as cruel, heartless, and violent toward immigrants seeking a better life. For years, activists have campaigned with slogans like abolish ICE. Cities like Portland and New York saw protests where ICE vans were blocked, ICE agents were harassed, ICE facilities vandalized. Politicians, too, jumped in, using sharp language that painted ICE as more than just flawed, but as morally corrupt. And here is where the line blurs. When leaders compare ICE to Nazi officers, when commentators describe detention facilities as torture centers, when rallies chant for abolition, does it not create an environment where someone like Joshua Jahn feels justified in taking action? And if we say no, if we dismiss that connection, then what do we say when the opposite happens? When far-right extremists cite political rhetoric as their justification? Are words harmless when spoken by the left, but dangerous when spoken by the right? That is the hypocrisy no one wants to address. And that is why tragedies like this will continue. Let's be clear. The detainees who died were not combatants. They were not law enforcement. They were not even free men. They were shackled in the back of a van, awaiting their fate in a system stacked against them. To strip them of life on top of liberty is not justice. It is murder. And yet, in the twisted logic of political violence, someone believed this was righteous. But what happens next? How will the media frame this? How will politicians spin it? How will the public react? Because here's the reality. Depending on who tells the story, Joshua Jahn will be remembered as either a radical terrorist or as a tragic byproduct of a system collapsing under its own contradictions. And every version of that story says something about us. So we'll go deeper. We will track John's last days. We will expose the rhetoric that surrounded him, and we will ask what role politicians, journalists, and activists played in fanning the flames. And we will challenge the narratives that will soon dominate cable news, op-eds, and social media posts. Because if this shooting proves anything, it's that America is a nation on edge, where words turn into bullets, where politics becomes war, and where every tragedy becomes someone's talking point. This is not just another breaking story. This is a wake-up call. And we will keep asking the hardest question of all. How many more Joshuas will it take before America admits the truth? Stay with us. This is just the beginning.